So, hello everybody, my name is Eric Stoker and I'm the Information Specialist for the Utah Developmental Disabilities Council, which is where I work. And I'm joined by my colleagues, Aubrey from Utah State University and Saska from the Division of Services for People with Disabilities. In this training, we're going to be talking about home and community-based services and the settings rule. And this training is specifically for self-advocates. But for those of you who use the home and community-based services waiver, you're welcome to come along and join us on this great journey we're going to have for us today.
So let's first talk about what home and community-based services are. Home and community-based services, or as you'll sometimes hear us call them, HCBS, are services offered through the state by the Division of Services for People with Disabilities, also known as DSPD. Home and community-based services help individuals with disabilities live in their own homes and communities.
So what is a community? Well, community can mean different things for everyone. For instance, it can mean a place like your job or neighborhood. The community could also be people such as those who live by you, work with you, or those who are interested in the same things you are, like books or movies.
Before we start talking about the home and community-based services settings rule, we want to go over some definitions that you'll hear us use throughout the training. The first definition is setting. A setting is where individuals live or receive services. There are two different types of settings, residential and non-residential. Residential settings are where individuals live, like in an apartment or group home. Non-residential settings are where individuals receive services, such as employment services or day programs. Providers are the agencies who provide services and supports that help individuals with disabilities. Supports are the help or tools that you need to do something successfully. Support coordinators are those who help individuals with disabilities write a yearly service plan and ensure that they get the supports they need.
So now we're going to talk about what the Home and Community-Based Services Settings Rule is. The Home and Community-Based Services Settings Rule was announced in 2014. The Settings Rule is a set of rules that providers, support coordinators, and states must follow in regards to both residential and non-residential settings, and the person-centered planning process, which we'll talk about more in detail later in this training. The settings rule came about because self-advocates expressed a desire for more choice in where they live, work, and socialize.
The settings rule says that there are 5 standards that all home and community-based services settings need to meet. Those standards include integration into the community, individual choice, individual rights, autonomy, and choices regarding services and providers.
Alrighty. So the home and community-based services settings rule says that you get access to the community. This means you have the same chance to be in the community like everyone else, with or without a disability. This also means that you do not have to go into the community if you don't want to. Being in the community means being able to do great things like going to the grocery store, the library, a game night with your neighbors, and having opportunities to work in the community. So was the community, not community, what am I thinking about here? What was the settings rule necessary? Sorry, everybody. So was the settings rule necessary? Were people receiving and using home and community-based services? Yes, but they separated individuals from the community. As you can see in the first circle, an individual is a member of a family and a community. The second circle shows how services tended to divide individuals into facilities that were only accessed by those with disabilities. Individuals had little or to no interaction with the community at large. The third circle represents how the settings rule seeks to break down those barriers and combine the supports in the community.
The settings rule also says that you must be given options, information, and experiences to decide how you want to live your life and make an informed choice. Remember that you must have options, information, and experience in order to make an informed decision about your life.
Really?
Under the settings rule, you must be ensured the rights to privacy, dignity, and respect, and freedom from coercion and restraint. Privacy means that you can be alone when you want to. You can lock your bedroom door or decide who to share your information with. Staff should keep your private information private.
You also have the right to dignity. Dignity means you feel good about yourself and how others treat you. People should be valuing what you say and take action when you need them to. The settings rule also says you have freedom from coercion. This means people cannot force or convince you to do something you do not want to do. For example, if I do not want to eat dinner, I should not be forced to eat dinner, or told if I don't eat dinner, I can't watch TV later.
You also have freedom from restraint, which means that people cannot hold you against your will. This includes physical restraints or other types of restraints from people or items you access, like food or entertainment. Respect means that you are treated with kindness and consideration. Autonomy. Under the settings rule, you also have autonomy, which means that you can do things on your own as much as possible and make choices about the activities you participate in and who you do them with. You also have what is known as dignity of risk. Dignity of risk means that you have the right to take reasonable risks and not be stopped by overly cautious members of your support team. If you want to make a decision that might end up making you fail, that's okay. You're allowed to fail.
The settings rule also says that you get to choose your services and supports and who provides them.
The settings rule gives you many opportunities. For example, you can find a job that matches your interests. You can go out into the community, like seeing a basketball game. You can control your own money, like if you wanted to go to the movies. You can choose what to eat. You can visit family and friends, like if I wanted to visit my friend that works at Utah State University. You can decide who you want to spend time or live with. You can decide who provides you services, and you can spend time with people of all abilities.
So everything we talked about previously applies to both residential and non-residential settings, like a day program. We would now like to show you a quick video on some of the additional requirements that only affect residential settings. This video was created by the Council on Quality Leadership, and it was sourced from hcbsadvocacy.org.
The first part of the HCBS Settings Rule that we're going to talk about is a list of things that providers have to do. Even though the Settings Rule will be put into action by your provider, it's important to remember that each state is responsible to make sure the rules are being followed. Providers need support too. The HCBS Settings Rule helps guide providers so that they can provide the best services for you. Do you get supports where you live, like in an apartment or group home? Do you have the HCBS waiver? Then your service provider has some rules to follow. If you are not sure if you are on the HCBS waiver, ask your case manager or someone who knows about the services you receive. The first rule is that everyone who lives at that setting must have a lease or other legal agreement providing similar protections. A lease is a contract or agreement that says what your rights are while living in that setting or place. A lease also protects you from being forced to leave without a reason. This lease may also have rules for you to follow, like whether you can paint your walls or not. The rules need to be similar to those that people without disabilities would have in their lease. So, your landlord can't tell you that you can't eat in the living room. They might, however, tell you that if you put holes in the walls, you need to repair them before you move out. The HCBS Settings Rule also says that you have the right to privacy in your bedroom if you live with other people, or you have the right to privacy in your house or apartment if you live alone. Part of your right to privacy is that you should be able to lock your door if you want, and you should have a key. Instead of a key, you may have a code to get into your house that you will get a copy of and learn how to use. The HCBS Settings Rule also states that you should get a say about who you want to live with. You should get to choose your roommate if you share a living space. Either your staff or your case manager, sometimes called an independent service coordinator or care coordinator, will ask you about this. They will ask you questions like, how do you feel about having a roommate? Or, do you like your roommate? Or, would you like your own room or to live with less or more people? You can answer these questions honestly. If you are happy with your current living arrangement, you can tell your staff that. If you are not happy with where you live or who you live with, your staff will work with you to fix the issue or seek other options. Your staff should reach out to you about this. If not, speak up and tell them what you prefer. Remember when we talked about a lease? It's a contract between a provider or landlord and you about rules for your living space. The HCBS Settings Rule says that you can choose how you decorate your space. You get a say about what you want your bedroom or house to look like. But be sure to check your lease and make sure they don't have any rules that prevent you from doing things like putting nails in the wall or painting. The HCBS Settings Rule says that providers must ensure that you can get food and drink whenever you want. Just like people who don't receive services can open their refrigerator or pantry to check what they have or grab a snack, people who receive services and supports should be able to do the same thing. Some people have medical conditions that mean they have to limit some foods or limit when or how much food they can eat. But this isn't the case for most people. And if someone wants to limit your access to food, the reason needs to be discussed with you and written into your person-centered plan, and may go to a human rights committee for review. You need to be part of the discussion. You can learn more about this in the clip called Rights Restrictions and Modifications. The Settings Rule says that you have control over your schedule and activities. So, what does this mean? Well, providers cannot make you follow certain schedules. You get to decide with your provider what time you get up, go to bed, and what you do during the day. Does this mean you can watch TV all day? Probably not. It may depend on what time you have to be at work or a day program, or what your roommate wants to do or watch. Just like people who do not receive services, you may have to compromise and negotiate, but you should get to decide what you do with your schedule. What's important to remember is that the house or apartment where you live is considered your home. That means you can have visitors when you want. You can invite a family member over for dinner, or you could invite someone to stay overnight. But if you have roommates, remember you need to consider their rights too. Being a good roommate can mean sometimes making compromises. Sometimes you get your way, and the next time, your roommate may get to make the decision. And you want to be safe in the decisions you make. You can talk about these types of things with people you trust. Finally, the Settings Rule makes sure that the place you live is accessible to you. You should be able to use sinks, showers, or other things you need to go about your daily life. If you need physical access to something in your home, they cannot restrict or modify this. This right is non-negotiable. The Settings Rule provides guidance to providers about what they need to do to support you to make choices, access the community, exercise your rights, and live a quality life.
As we briefly mentioned in the last video, sometimes your rights may be restricted or modified. We would now like to show you a video on rights restrictions and modifications. This video was also created by the Council on Quality Leadership and was sourced from hcbsadvocacy.org.
The Settings Rule was put into place by the federal government to make sure people get the best services they can. But people are different. One size doesn't fit all when it comes to services. Some people may need a lot of support, and some may need just a little. Some people may need support every day, and others may just need support occasionally. The new Settings Rule talks about your rights. In the clip called What Does the Rule Guarantee?, we talk about your rights. But sometimes there are times when your rights are restricted or modified in order to keep you safe and provide you with the best support. When you cannot do something you want to do, or when someone controls you in some way, this is called a restriction. Before a provider, the agency that provides you support, can restrict any of your rights, they need to do a lot of paperwork to show that they tried to do everything possible to avoid putting a restriction in place. And you need to be a part of these discussions and decisions. So when you need extra support, or when you are not able to take part in all of the freedoms the new rules provide, what happens? What does the provider have to show? First, they need to base the restriction on a specific need. So, for example, if a person had Prader-Willi syndrome and having unlimited access to food might make them sick, then the provider might work with them and decide it is best to keep food locked away and control what food the person has access to. But if there is no medical reason to stop you from getting food when you want, then the restriction probably doesn't make sense. They cannot restrict your rights for no good reason. Another thing providers need to do is show that they have tried other less restrictive interventions, but they didn't work. And they need to write about the other things they tried in your records. So, for example, staff cannot lock up the knives in the house because they're scared you might hurt yourself cutting a bagel. They would need to show that they did other things before taking away your rights, like teaching you to use a knife properly or other things that might keep you from hurting yourself. The providers need to collect data and other information on the restriction so they can track over time if it is helping you or not. If it isn't helping you, then they need to work with you to find other things to try. They should also have a plan to restore or give back your rights. Just because they remove your rights doesn't mean you lose them forever. The restriction is for a defined or limited period of time, and they need to meet with you regularly to talk about the restriction and if it is still necessary. And the restriction cannot hurt you in any way. Nobody should harm you. Providers and support staff are there to help you. Finally, they need to get your consent. You need to agree to the restriction. This means your provider needs to explain to you why they want to restrict your rights, how they think it will help you, explain any risks there might be, and go over the timeline for when they will reassess if it is working. If you have any questions, they need to answer them for you and explain it in a way that you understand. If you don't understand, you need to speak up.
The HCBS Settings Rule also affects person-centered planning. Person-centered planning is a way for you to help reach your goals and get the life that you want in your community. Your person-centered support plan is your yearly plan that outlines what your goals, preferences, and interests are. You do not have to wait a full year to update your person-centered support plan. Just contact your support coordinator to make changes to your plan.
Let's talk about let's talk about how you can help with your person-centered planning process. When it comes to making your plan, you can do the following to make it all about you. First, come ready to share information with your support coordinator. Second, make sure you're talking with your support team, which can include your support coordinator, family members, friends, providers, guardians, and whoever else you want to help you with your person-centered support plan so that you can get the life that you want. Third, make sure the plan meets your needs and sign off on it. Fourth, give your opinion on the services you currently receive. What do you like or don't like about them? Last, remember that you are the expert of your life. Your involvement is key when making your person-centered support plan.
If you have any questions on the person-centered planning process, your support team is there to help you. Let them know if you don't understand something and how they can best help you.
What does self-advocacy mean to you? Well, for me, it means going out in the community and advocate for what people with disabilities want and stuff. So let's take a look at a video that was created by the Research and Training Center on Community Living Institute on Community, University of Minnesota, and see what other self-advocates say about what self-advocacy means to them.
Self-advocacy means to speak up. speaking up for your rights, no matter what the issue or the concern is.
To speak for oneself and speak for others.
I have my own voice. I speak up for myself.
Standing up for your rights and not relying on staff or your support staff to make decisions for you.
The ability to be independent, live your life to its fullest extent.
We took issues like the will work, will pay.
Be persistent in what you want. When you got control of your life, of your everyday affairs.
Means given the ability to have choices in my life.
It's not just about information sharing, it's about being in the community.
I worked really hard in the community because of my unique disability to get the word out that people like us should be in the community.
Speaking up for yourself, but also taking responsibility for your things.
Being able to know what you want and then being able to go for it and having somebody else that believes in it, that's able to help you.
I'm gonna fight for those that are like me, or it don't matter. It's just, I just don't like people taking advantage of.
They want to get the word out that they want something out of the way.
As much as everybody tries to help people with various kinds of disabilities, we're the ones who really know what we need.
For years, the voices of people with intellectual disability were never heard. Decisions were made for them.
If it doesn't come from us, it comes from people who don't have an intellectual disability and they don't actually have the experience to talk about it.
The professionals need to listen to us more because they don't know as well as we do what we want to do.
Other people will decide what you will do. If you are not at the table, you don't know what those people are going to decide.
A part of being an advocate is to get out there and start networking.
And if you don't know how to do that, you should go and ask a self-advocate person that knows how to do it, and they'll help you.
There's tons of barriers out there, but attitudinal barriers are the biggest, I think.
The biggest thing is being included in the community with society, and it's inclusion within college, schools.
We came out here to learn from y'all anyway, and that's what we want people to understand. When we need help and all that from y'all, that's what we want.
I like to be out, helping people, and to teach people.
I learned to speak up and not be ashamed of who I am.
Just like the civil rights movement before us, we try to do things to help people speak out for what they want and do what they believe in.
We just wanted to let everybody know just because you have a disability doesn't mean you're less than, or you don't know, or you're not committed to something.
We need a voice. We need to get people to listen.
It's really important that we speak up and tell people what is wrong in this world, and so that we can make it better and we can make a change.
Here are some things you can do to become a self-advocate. First, if you don't feel like what we've talked about today is not what you're experiencing in your setting, please email them at hcbssettings@utah.gov. Second, talk to your legislators about how the settings rule will impact your life. To find your legislators, type the link on the screen into your web browser, which is le.utah.gov/GIS, caps lock letters, /finddistrict.jsp. Third, tell other people you know about the settings rule. This could mean your friends, family, coworkers, or staff. Fourth, provide your opinion about the services you receive to your support coordinator or provider. If you're unhappy about something, make sure to tell someone who can help.
Fifth, learn more about what your state is doing. The Division of Services for People with Disabilities, or DSPD, has many different work groups. If you would like to learn more about how you can get involved in different work groups and committees that focus on improving the lives of individuals with disabilities, email me at saskaraJcevic@utah.gov.
If you have any questions about the home and community-based services settings rules for us, please feel free to email us and we'd be happy to answer them. Thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of your day.